Deny me workers' comp? Payback time. Warning, some audiences may find this content disturbing. View at your own discretion. Welcome to the House of Reddit. Today, we share some of the recent r/ProRevenge stories posted on Reddit. Deny me workers' comp? Payback time. It was a bad year for me and the economy was not in great shape, unemployment was fairly high. I had been working at a hardware store but things went bad and the owner sold everything and moved to FL. I finally landed a job at factory. It was shitty work involving putting zinc plating on metal parts. The owner was all about profit and had little regard for worker safety. Somehow he'd get a heads up whenever an OSHA inspector was coming. We'd bust ass cleaning, installing safety equipment on the machinery, etc. Once the inspector left, the safety equipment was put back in storage so there would be no wear and tear on it. I suffered through it all, as did my coworkers, because we were young, had no skills or experience, and jobs were scarce. One day the piece of machinery I used, think of something that looks like a concrete mixer, broke while I was loading it with the parts. The drum fell, hitting the bucket I was holding. The bucket was full of metal parts and weighed somewhere around 80 pounds when it was full. This caused me to lose my balance and ultimately injured my back. I tried to tough it out, but I was in a lot of pain. I go tell the foreman. She leaves the floor and finds the owner. She comes back about 10 minutes later and tells me to clock out and go home. I'm young and naive. I know nothing about workers' comp. I spent a few hundred of my own money going to a chiropractor, and finally to a doctor. When I go back to work a couple of days later, I am informed that I have been demoted due to my injury. I am relegated to being a custodian, and my hourly pay had been cut. I held on for a few months before quitting and moving on. Here's the ProRevenge, it's a few years later. I have graduated college, got a good job, and am a little older and wiser. I come home from work and am watching the evening news. The state I live in has an office similar to the EPA. The news station did one of those human interest stories and interviewed the man who investigated the illegal environmental stuff. The story was about how he had dropped the bomb on a corporation that had been illegally dumping zinc waste. My ears perked up. You see, that company I used to work for used zinc to plate their little metal parts, lots of zinc. My workstation with that drum? My job was to fill it with the metal parts and then fill the drum with a zinc/water/acid slurry. Once the parts were plated, guess what the next part of my job was? I dumped the slurry into a trough which led to a hole in the wall of the factory, which led to a ditch, which led to a creek. The factory had been illegally dumping zinc waste into a ditch. I immediately got in my car and drove there. The factory was still in business and they were still dumping the zinc waste into a creek. I took pictures. I took video, and then I turned it all in, along with a notarized affidavit to that state inspector. The original fine was in excess of $100,000. They appealed and I don't know what the settlement entailed. The business closed shortly after. Let your kids run wild and see what's the price. In the late 90s, I worked for a major retail store that was well known for its open commercials. I was hired for seasonal work and quickly learned how to run every department and quickly was working solo in many of the departments. Well, the particular day in question, I was assigned to their shoe department. It was 20 minutes to closing and the customer walks in with 4 kids all under the age of 5. I had just finished cleaning up the department and when she just left her kids to run wild while she looked for shoes in peace. I was seeing red. Her kids are in tattered shoes and their outfits aren't much better while over-entitled mom is in really nice clothing and is wearing what I knew to be a $200 pair of shoes. Also, there is no way I'm staying late to clean up after her kids. I was a nanny to large families and foster families before moving to the state I currently live in, so I'm really good with kids. To top it off, at the time I'm 19 years old, and well, I'm an extremely sarcastic, petty person. Cue my revenge. I go gather the kids as soon as she's out of sight and in my sweetest nanny way ask them if they want new shoes today. All 4 kids' eyes light up and they are so excited that the nice lady said they get new shoes. Well, I measure their feet and take them over to where the children's shoes are. I let them pick shoes they want and not only make sure they fit but put the pairs of shoes on the kids. As she stayed after closing, we had closed the metal doors to the mall so she's locked inside the store. She comes out with a $90 pair of shoes for her to see her kids all smiling holding shoe boxes and wearing shoes. Over-entitled mom starts telling the kids they didn't come to get them shoes but that mommy needed new shoes. Cue the kids starting to bawl. The manager comes and the over-entitled mom starts getting uppity about how I needed to be fired for watching her kids while she ignored them and helping them find new shoes. The manager takes the shoe boxes from the kids and looks at their old shoes and then looks at over-entitled mom with a "are you fucking serious" look on her face. She says, "Well, I've been watching security footage and noticed you left the kids without supervision as soon as you entered the store." Then she asks over-entitled mom if she would like to purchase the kids new shoes or if she would like us to call CPS and report her for negligence as we have all the proof needed to have her kids taken by CPS. Over-entitled mom turns red and throws the shoes she was going to buy back towards the women's department and curtly told me to ring the kids' shoes up. She paid and stormed out, without a receipt, so no returns, with the kids who are all super happy that they got new shoes. The next part I found out later when I ran into the manager shopping. Over-entitled mom came back to the store several months later. Apparently, the manager couldn't get the situation off her mind and she called CPS on over-entitled mom. Over-entitled mom had paid with a check, so the manager had over-entitled mom's name and address and asked for a wellness check on the kids. CPS in the end took the kids. Over-entitled mom returned to the store to confront me for her losing her meal ticket as she lost her welfare checks when she lost the kids. Apparently, she caused such a scene that the police were called. Over-entitled mom was arrested, permanently lost the kids, and the manager was in the process of trying to adopt all 4 kids when we spoke last. I lost contact with the manager after the store closed. The mall was torn down and a much nicer commerce/residential open-air mall was rebuilt. The company closed the chain store down and now only has the cheaper store associated with red circles that the manager didn't go work for. Man claims that we falsified a contract. Now he has to pay for 3. We are a small mobile phone shop where customers and employees address each other by first name. Involved in the story are Girlfriend 1, Anne, Girlfriend 2, Lisa, Girlfriend 3, Judith, and the ex, aka Max. Which one changed from Girlfriend 1 to 2 and then to 3? In guest roles, me and my boss. Lisa was in our shop. Max had a new girlfriend, Judith, and wanted to take his number with them. No problem in Germany. I pointed out that the old contract would run for another year. She didn't like this, she had only taken over the phone number from Anne for Max. The strange thing, Max was sure that he would pay for his contract himself. I kindly printed out the last invoice from Lisa and gave it to her. It was clear to read that Lisa paid for Max. A few days later, Anne was in the store. Max says that the amount that will be debited from Max should be from Anne. After some research we find out that this was the old contract. With the phone number of Max that was ported from Anne to Lisa, this was strange. The contract should have cancelled. We had given a termination with Anne back then. This must be a mistake by the cell phone company. We write a letter to the cell phone company asking for clarification of the matter. That was a problem from a few years ago, we can usually solve anything younger than that in minutes. I joked a little more. How could Max not notice what was debited from his account? Over years. This should be the end. The cell phone company answered. The notice of termination was deposited. But the termination was revoked. And stood in front of our door one day after the letter and yelled at my boss. How could he simply revoke the terminations? Max had said that we had to have done that and that he was now charging us the fees. In addition, and must sue us. My boss is by nature, quick-tempered. He demanded that you leave the shop until you become calm again. And then called the police. That escalated quickly. The police came. We can only revoke a termination, either by extending a contract or by having the customer sign a revocation. We were able to prove our innocence quickly. And was smoother. My boss was still angry but gulped it down. An interesting question occurred to the police. How did Anne get the idea that we were to blame? Max said it. The police thought it would be a good idea to call Max. He seems to know something. After all, the police had to move out because of him. Unfortunately, he apparently forgot where he got this information from. Pity. After a few weeks we had a conversation with Lisa and also with Anne. Max saw a great offer for its old contract, Anne's, after porting the number. €5 less. He completed this online. The old contract continued and the new contract with his phone number ran on Lisa. Max has signed a contract on behalf of Anne, which he has no right to do. The police pointed this out to him and he wants to continue to pay for the old contract, which has now been terminated again, even without a court. Judith was once in the store with Max. Judith doesn't want to sign a contract for Max now. Max needs the phone number that currently belongs to Lisa for his work. In Germany you have to agree to the transfer of the phone number. Lisa allows it, but only if he gives her in writing that he will pay for the old number until the end of the contract. If you enjoy this video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. Turn on the notifications to know when we post new videos. Thank you for coming to the House of Reddit.